Euthanasia is one of the tough subjects. I'm talking about euthanasia and the idea of it being a mercy killing, as the dictionary says it, to prevent a prolonged and painful death. Before I start, I just want to say that there are many different ways to see euthanasia and many different situations to it, so I will try and cover as many as I can, and if I miss any, please, make a comment. It's a difficult subject because of the different standpoints involved. One of the most important being that, most of us have not been in the shoes of someone in great pain facing euthanasia. So quite simply, the majority of the people out there can't cast a simple judgment of it being right or wrong because they do not know what it is like, which is, another reason why it's so hard to bring to a conclusion. I've never been in the position of it myself, which is why I only offer my ideas for discussion. My personal opinion is that it's something that a person has a right to do. Someone in the position of euthanasia has a right to make their own choice. If you're in a position of such pain and the odds of survival are very slim, there really isn't any point in prolonging the inevitable just to spare someone a few hours or a few weeks of a pain-filled life. Now, here's where the problems come in. How would you go through with it? Would it be assisted suicide, or would a doctor have to unplug you from life support and sort of, be your killer? Maybe that doctor doesn't want to feel like he was the one who put the gun to your head and pulled the trigger. It's another interesting situation that I don't have an answer for. Assisted suicide goes right back to the individual's choice of going through with death, and committing suicide is, in my opinion, the best way to go through euthanasia because the individual gets to rest in peace and no one else has to get their hands dirty. This reminds me of a part in a movie called The Mist, where one of the characters ends up spilling gasoline all over himself and catching on fire. And then after he's put out, he has horrible burns. The man, when he's being treated, says that it's the worst pain he's ever felt, and he wants to be put out of his misery. Just give me the gun and I'll do it myself, is what he said. The people treating him don't give him the gun, and later on in the movie he dies anyway. So, with this example brings the question, is keeping someone alive like that just pointless? Or do the individuals not really know what they're doing? Another example, my best friend who has had a lot of influence in my life and changed it very much for the better. He was in a motorcycle accident a long time ago, before I met him. He was driving his crotch rocket when a car at a stop sign pulled out in front of him, and my friend hit the car. He literally ripped off the gas tank with his groin and flew through the air and landed shoulder and head first on the pavement ahead. So needless to say, he was pretty fucked up. He was taken away to the hospital around 8 p.m., I think, and around 2 a.m., the doctors brought in a priest to give him his last rites, because they believed that he was definitely going to die. Around 2 a.m., they were putting in a pint of blood into his body, and he was bleeding 2 pints out internally. Also around the same time, he grabbed one of the nurses and told her to just kill him, just end his life, because he was in an amazing amount of pain and didn't want it anymore. At this point, a logical person would say to end his life because there isn't any point in prolonging his death anyway. But, sure enough, he pulled through, lived and recovered 100% with practically no permanent injuries. Years later, my friend became like a second father to me, and so if they had used euthanasia to kill him, they would have ended his life and he wouldn't be here today. So that just goes to show that euthanasia isn't always the right answer. With all this being said, I believe that the most important aspect of euthanasia is the fact that each case has to be treated differently. One more example is of my late grandfather, who in his last week of life suffered a terrible allergic reaction and was hospitalized. He was 86. In his last week of his life, his bowels became rotten and excruciatingly painful. Luckily for him, though, he was unconscious through most of it. My father and uncle, who are both pro-life, decided to keep him alive, but unfortunately he died a week later, regardless. In this type of situation, you have to consider many things. The age of my grandfather, which at that age is usually hanging around the end of someone's life anyway. That one's a little open for interpretation, but yeah. The fact that he was unconscious and had no say in whether he was going to be let go or not, and the pain that he was enduring. Those were the special circumstances involving my grandfather's euthanasia experience, and are different for every different case of euthanasia. Each case is different. It has its own criteria unto itself. So, in conclusion to my piece, euthanasia is one of the most hardest of discussion topics because of the different situations and circumstances involved with each case. I still stick by my own opinion that a person should have the freedom to do what they wish, but, perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps, like in the case of my friend, someone who is in the position of euthanasia aren't in their right mind. What do you have to say? What do you think?